Joined now by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning. I'm glad to hear that, by the way.
Way with words there. Let's talk about DACA, this immigration debate. Okay. See if you could explain something to me. Yesterday, Attorney General Sessions, speaking for the Trump administration, came out and said DACA, this program, needs to end, and that the compassionate thing to do is to end it. Overnight, President Trump tweeted and said, Congress must legalize DACA, this very same program, or if not, he'll revisit the issue. So is that a mixed message?
Well, number one, the compassionate thing to do is to give these kids legal status, let them become citizens. They're all non-felons. They have no other country to go to. They came here as young children. They've lived their life in America, and they would add great value to our country. So that's the right thing to do regarding the kids. In terms of the law, 10 attorney generals filed a lawsuit, excuse me, today, suggesting that DACA was unconstitutional. They were going to win in court. DAPA, the legalization of their parents, was struck down by the federal court. So what prompted this was actions by 10 Republican attorney generals to challenge the constitutionality of a DACA. They were going to win. So I think the president made the right decision by giving us 6 months.
But there's no question that Attorney General Sessions seemed to be saying we've got to enforce the laws. He said that these dreamers are taking jobs from Americans. So he argued on the merits it needs to end, and the president seems to be saying legalize it.
Well, Jeff Sessions is wrong. These kids are not taking jobs from American citizens. They're part of our country. They're fully employed for the most part. They're in school. They will add great value. The president's right to want to have a heart for these kids.
Yeah, you said the president's got to roll up his sleeves and get involved, get on the phone and create consensus. But, Senator, in the 6 months that he's been in office, as he ran on a deal maker, this idea that he was a deal maker, have you seen him employ that skill set on any issue since he's been in office?
The health care bill in the House. So here's what I think he needs to do. We need, Marco Rubio is right, we need to define what an acceptable DREAM Act would look like. 70% of Americans want to secure our border. 70% of Americans want to allow these kids to have a second start on life and live here in our country among us. So there's a deal to be made between DREAM Act and border security, but the president has to lead that effort in the House.
Can I jump in there real quick on that? Because when you say border security, sir, there's an idea that perhaps this DREAM Act could get passed if Congress provides funding for the president's border wall. Now, first of all, Mexico is supposed to pay for this border wall, but do you think that's a non-starter?
Yeah, I don't think Mexico is going to pay for the wall, and nobody wants to build a 2,200-mile wall. What I would look at is John Kelly. He was the former Department of Homeland Security. He's an expert on border security. I would like to see the president come up with a border security plan that makes sense, because a lot of Republicans say if you legalize these kids, no matter how emotional the situation is, you're incentivizing other people to come to America illegally, saying if you can get our kids there, maybe they'll become citizens. So you got to do two things at once. You got to be fair to these kids, and you got to address the underlying problem of legal immigration.
Let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying there's a possibility of a congressional fix for DACA without funding for the wall that President Trump wants to build?
I think there's a congressional deal to be made for border security that would not include a 2,200-mile wall and the DREAM Act, because nobody, I've been to the border, nobody believes a 2,200-mile wall is the way to secure a border.
Well, the president does.
Well, I tell you what, the president, in my view, can come up with a very robust plan. What I would do is go to a guy like General Kelly, who used to be in charge of the Southern Command. He can tell us how to secure the border.
Let me ask you about North Korea before I let you go. You were on our program back in August. I hope you remember that. And you said a military option is, quote, inevitable unless North Korea changes. Since you said those words on our air, they've tested 2 more ballistic missiles. One, as you know, flew over Japanese territory. And just last weekend, they tested a hydrogen bomb. So they are not changing. Is the military option now, in your opinion, the only option left?
No, there are a lot of things we can do short of war, but I hope the president won't capitulate to North Korea's demands, which are we're going to build a missile with a nuclear weapon on top to hit America, and you just got to learn to live with it. So that's an unacceptable outcome, but China is still the key. We can be harder on China. We can get China and Russia to help us maybe. I don't mind sitting down with North Korea. I just don't want them to have a nuclear weapon to hit America. We haven't run out of diplomatic options, but to those who say there's no military option, you're wrong. There is a military option at last resort. I don't want to use it, but it's got to be on the table, because without that, there'll never be a diplomatic end to this.
Senator Graham, you got a lot on your plate in Washington,
Yeah.
along with your fellow members of Congress. Thanks for your time, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.